What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Detroit Lions podcast here with Bischoff and Brown. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. We are back. Scott, my man, how are you?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm well. We had quite a few episodes last week. I think people, if you want to get caught up, one of the best ways that you can do that is by rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. But yeah, we had 3 episodes come out last week. We did a interior offensive line piece, an offensive tackle piece. I think we did did we do a mock draft last week? I think
we did mock draft 1.0.
Yeah. So we did a mock, and that obviously did really well. Everybody has their opinions and takes on that. So we are going to be doing a mock draft 2.0 as well today, because we've got some new opinions and new thoughts, and there's new things floating around, and we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, we want to tell you about our friends over at Restore, and we're going to get into the prospect of the week powered by Restore. But yeah, I mean, Restore Hyper Wellness, I'm wearing the hoodie. You guys can see it. And maybe you're an athlete, maybe you have kids that are athletes, or you're just trying to get back into the gym like myself, and you're just not recovering like you used to. Well, I've got a solution for you. Go check out our friends over at Restore Hyper Wellness here in Northville and Birmingham, Michigan. And again, they're a national brand. So if you're not in the Metro Detroit area, you could go to like your local Restore or in your area, wherever you're listening to this. Now, you won't be able to do some of the deals that you can get in the Metro Detroit area because of us, but at the same time, you can check out the things that they provide. And some of those things are compressions, cryotherapy, specialty services such as IV drip therapy, just a ton of great stuff. So after just one visit, I felt better. I actually went the other day because I was working out, doing some jumping jacks and doing some stupid stuff in the gym. It ended up like tweaking my foot. So did 30 minutes of compressions, and I'm all good now. So I feel better, and I've been hooked ever since I've been doing it. You guys can do the same thing. They've got tons of special offers right now in the Metro Detroit area. Things such as 2 cryotherapy sessions for $30, or you can save 50% on your first IV and a whole lot more. And if you name drop us, they'll also give you 10% off the bill. So go check them out and get a family member, a friend, or even yourself the service that you need to restore your body. Tell them I sent you from the Detroit Lions podcast so they can get you taken care of so you can get back to doing more of what you love. Don't wait around. Go check out our friends at Restore Hyper Wellness. So prospect of the week. You want to go first? You want me to go first? What are you thinking here? You want to go?
I'm going to let you run the show. You do what you want. Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, I'll just start then. The player that I want to talk about first is Brendan Rice from USC. Yes, that Rice, Jerry Rice's son. Obviously, he's got big shoes to fill following in his dad's footsteps into the NFL. But I want to say this, put a realistic expectation on him, allow him to ease his transition into the next level. And I think you can actually get a pretty good player. He's a guy that just, the more and more I've watched of him, and he is a player that as I wrote up his profile, I went back and even like rewatched some of the tape just because I've got him ranked as my 97th ranked player. He's actually my 17th ranked receiver. And I think
this is crazy.
It's crazy. Now, and granted, on my board, I only have 17 receivers ranked. So I think, that might be alarming to some people, but to be 17th receiver ranked in the top 100 of a big board, teams in the NFL are going to do that. He might be the 10th ranked receiver for a team. And at the end of the day, like, he was somebody I watched really early in the process because of the Senior Bowl, and I didn't really love his tape to start. But the more and more I watch him, the more and more that I see as a potential fit for Detroit. And I try not to put this through the lens of the Detroit Lions. I just want to talk about a player that caught my eye. But I have to get this one off my chest because we've been talking for weeks about the Lions looking for a prototypical X receiver or just a bigger bodied receiver. They lost Josh Reynolds to the Denver Broncos, and Brendan Rice might be a late day 2, early day 3 pick for them. he might end up being off the board by then, but I don't know. I mean, like, he ran a 4.55 40, so he's not got blazing speed, but he's got great size for the position. He's got long arms. He secures the ball away from his frame consistently. He's physical. He's got run after the catch ability, and he's able to withstand contact consistently. But I think what I like most about him was that he uses this hesitation hop release against press. And I'm thinking, like, okay, he's watching a lot of Devontae Adams, and he's probably picking up some stuff from his old man. But I think when the Lions are looking for a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and I like their receivers as it is. Like, if they went into the season with what they have, I'd be okay with it. But if they wanted to add a guy, I think Brendan Rice would make a lot of sense. I think he can be that prototypical X receiver. He can win vertically down the field. Not consistently, but he can do that. And I think just those in-breaking routes, like dig routes or those quick hitches, some of the short and intermediate area stuff, I think Brendan Rice fits. So he was a guy that I finished up, writing his report last night and putting that all together. And I'm just like, man, like, he really fits what we're looking for. So as we do this mock draft, I'm gonna see if we can find a way to land him, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. But that's my guy. I don't know if you've watched him at all, what you think on him, but
like, if you're not going to be like a blazer, at running in the 4.3s, I can understand why teams would want to press you because, you're not going to run. If a corner misses, right, and if he doesn't land his hands, or if you let's just say he's able to defeat the press, where's he going to go?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like you don't have to send a safety to his side of the field kind of stuff, because big picture, if it breaks down, you probably have a corner who can catch him.
Exactly.
Right. So to me, I would think the way he releases off the line of scrimmage is maybe the most important part of his game, because he can get off of press. He does. And then you look at the red zone stuff.
Yes.
I don't know exactly what the number is, but there's a large ratio of, I don't think it's quite Roman Wilson-like, because Roman Wilson only had like 50 catches and he had double-digit touchdowns. But he did have a large portion, ratio-wise, of touchdowns to catches. And, I just think that his ability to get off the line of scrimmage, even as a 4.55 guy, is good. It's really good. And then it's all the other stuff. We know Goff loves the in-breaking stuff.
Yeah.
And with Rice, he strikes me as a player that if he's got a defender on, let's say, his back hip, and it's an in-breaking route, it's gonna be tough for the defender to get to the ball through his body. Tough.
Yeah.
Because he's a bigger bodied guy. So I like him. You have 17 wide receivers in your 100. I think he'll go maybe, I don't know where you're thinking he's going to go, but maybe end of round 3 in that range. End of day 2 range is where I would think he would start to pick up.
Yep.
But a lot of these guys are going to go, we're going to have a ton of receivers go in the first 2 rounds. And it just, I wonder what's going to be left there and what's going to be the response from NFL teams when there might be 13 or 14 gone after, say, the first 75 picks, whatever it is.
Right.
So maybe it pushes him a little bit where he goes a little earlier than we think, but very good player. I think the NFL bloodlines is a very big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, the release, his ability to release and just play the bigger bodied game is impressive. It's good.
Yep. I got the numbers for you. He had 45 receptions, almost 800 yards this year, but he had 12 touchdowns. So very similar to Roman Wilson in that regard, as far as what that ratio is. And then just from Pro Football Focus, in the red zone, 82 snaps, 26 targets, 14 receptions, 99 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So he only had 4 red zone passes at Colorado. Keep in mind, he only played 17 games there, but he had 2 touchdowns there in the red zone. So that's something that stands out. And again, I'm not asking this guy to come in and catch 75 passes for me. I'm asking him to become Josh Reynolds for me, or maybe a touch better or a touch less. But I think that it's just a very interesting fit. And looking at the Lions and the way that they've done things, I don't know. He was very intriguing. And rewatching him, I'm like, man, maybe I'm just too low on him. Maybe I have it right. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, I think he's a good football player, and I think he's somebody that fits. But who is the player that you got?
So, so this is, as much as you wanted to talk about Rice through a league-wide lens, the player I'm going to talk about is specifically through a Detroit Lions lens. And that's Elijah Jones, Boston College, cornerback. He is a 6th-year senior. So, he's older. He's 24 years old even right now. I don't know if that's a huge drawback for the Lions or not. I really don't know. But I know that, generally speaking, when you see a player who's got good ball skills, really good ball skills, and I would say top-notch athleticism, and then he shows you some of the physicality stuff at the top of routes, not physicality as a tackler. So we're not. So the negatives. We'll just do the negatives. He is older. He's 24 years old. He's a little linear in his build. He's 6'1.5", 185 pounds. He's gotten better every year as a tackler, but he's still not what I would consider like a great tackler. And if that's going to be something that disqualifies him, then so be it, because it's not the strength of his game. So I mean, for him, it's lack of being a really sound fundamental tackler, although he's gotten better year after year, and age. The positives are, you can see the ball skills and the athleticism and all that stuff. So 24 years old, 6-year senior. He had 5 interceptions in 2023 in only 9 games. He had a bunch of pass breakups. I mentioned 6'1.5", 185 pounds. He ran 4.44. Vertical was 42.5. 10'11" broad jump. So we're talking about pretty crazy measurables. Very athletic player, right? We accept that we're not going to get a great tackler, but what you you're going to get is a player who, from a grade standpoint, I think graded out significantly better in man coverage than he did in zone per Pro Football Focus. He is a very feisty, aggressive player when the ball is in the air. He's super sticky. He is, all of his interceptions are interesting because, some are really great plays on the ball. There's a lot of in-breaking stuff where he's like, I'm just going to run the route for you. And, I just mentioned it with Brendan Rice. Like if you're on the back hip of a receiver, you may struggle to get to the ball. He doesn't.
Right.
He'll get to the ball. You can see him rip. He makes a play on Keon Coleman in the end zone where he punches the ball out, which should have been an easy touchdown against Florida State. I want to say he had a pick against Florida State. He had 2 against, I think, Syracuse. But still, from a Lions standpoint, the idea of this guy with the length and the physicality and the stickiness in man coverage, it pops. And it's one of those who I got too late. You may have seen him at the Senior Bowl. I don't know what he looked like down there, but the film for him is super intriguing. It's not round 1,
yep, and
likely maybe not even round 2 type of stuff. But when you get to that point and you just look at the stuff that's already there with how sticky he is in coverage, and he'll put his hands on you and press you.
Yeah.
The ball skills, the physical, all that stuff. I don't know why he's not being talked about more.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because he's 24. I don't know. But definitely a player that the Lions, I think, will be interested in on day 2. And there's a couple in this class where they would fit seriously with what Aaron Glenn wants to do. He's super intriguing. Player of the week.
Yep. I'm with you. He's a guy that I've only watched 1 game on, but super sticky. And he flashed at the Senior Bowl a bunch. And he was a guy that, like, I was telling you this before the show, like I had to top my big board off at like 100, 105 players. The more and more I kept watching, the more and more I wanted to add. And I'm like, I'm never going to get this thing done for people to digest it before the draft. But like MJ Devonshire from I think I'm saying that right, from Pitt. Same type of deal. Like, I want to do a full evaluation on the player, but I can't, like, because of time. Jones is that same type of way. Like, he flashed a bunch at the Senior Bowl, and I'm like looking at the helmet, and because you couldn't always see the numbers, and I'm looking at the helmet, I'm like, Boston College, oh, that's that Jones kid again. And I, like, super sticky, just always it seemed like whenever he was in man coverage, he was able to run the receiver's route when he was in press man. And then when he was in like off man or in zone, he kind of drifted at times and would be out of position. But when you think of like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and Aaron Glenn and what they're able to do defensively, they're taking guys like Jerry Jacobs in these later round picks and developing them. Same thing with like Malcolm Rodriguez. Wouldn't surprise me if they didn't take a corner until the 5th or 6th round. Maybe that's an Elijah Jones. Maybe that's a Devonshire. I don't know how that board's going to fall. Hell, maybe it's Kalen Carson from Wake Forest, who might be a player I talk about next week for Prospect of the Week. But I'm with you. I think he's an intriguing guy. And I think like what Brad Holmes said earlier this offseason just sticks with me when I think about corners and specifically these kind of sleeper guys or under the radar guys. He was the cornerback, defensive back, cross-check guy in LA with the Rams. Yeah. And like he was the guy that went back and like verified, yeah, this guy's got it. He doesn't, whatever. And every single time I look at like a Kalen Carson, an Elijah Jones, a Devonshire, a Renardo Green, a Jerrion Jones from Florida State, and you go down these rabbit holes of names, these are guys that fit Brad Holmes, not the guys at the top like Kool-Aid and all that. They might take those guys at 29. We'll see. We're going to do a mock draft. We'll see what's there. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he's very much slept on, and I think he could be somebody that goes much sooner than expected. And I think a lot of that has to do with the exposure at the Senior Bowl. I think he had a good week there. So I'm with you. I think that's a great point on Elijah Jones out of Boston College. So those are our prospects of the week, powered by our friends over at Restore. Again, check them out over at restore.com. So we're going to jump into this mock draft. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to set this thing up with our friends over at Pro Football Network. They've got a tremendous simulator here. Not always the most realistic simulator. Which one isn't?
It's just, you have to just, and I guess we should probably just explain that if there's a player who we absolutely know will never be at a position in this draft, we probably shouldn't take him just for the sake of reality. You're like, what I mean? Like, yeah. So just understand that. And then the rankings are kind of what they are. Every simulator is different. Yeah. We'll talk it out. It's good.
Yep. And the last time we did this, everybody wanted us to go fast speed. I'm going to still go normal because I want to try to maybe make a trade up here if we want to trade out. And I like to let the picks develop and digest what's happening. I mean, we have to talk about some of these players. So if we just speed through this, I don't think there's any value in that. So yeah, boring, sure, going slow, but it is what it is. I am going to pause it in about 6 picks.
Yes.
Because I think right about
reason. Yes.
Right about here is where I think it gets a little interesting. So everybody talks about trading out, get out of there. And I think when you look at Detroit and the way that they're designed, they have picks 29, 61, 73. And we've acknowledged that there's a significant gap here. I mean, almost 100-player difference between 73 and 164. We think one of these picks, they're going to move back and acquire a pick in the middle between 73 and 164. All fine and dandy. Well, I guess that would be like 2 picks, but you know what I mean. Yeah. But when you look at the teams in front of them, the team that just terrifies me, it scares the death out of me, is Buffalo at 28. Because I'm on board with Zach Frazier out of West Virginia at 29. I'm on board with Darius Robinson out of Missouri, the defensive lineman. I'm on board with Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle out of Illinois. I think Johnny Newton would be a great fit at 29, but the Bills scare me because I think any of those 3 players, talking with people within the Bills and people that write for the Bills, those seem to be the 3 names that they continuously land on. So if the Lions want to get in front of the Bills, do they trade with the Cardinals, who they traded with last year? I think it's interesting. There's a lot of capital here. So maybe they can finagle something and shift around a first and a second, and maybe the Lions can. Yeah, they might only give up 3 picks, but they might get 2 valuable picks back. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there's something that they could do there. I mean, just staring at that, that's a lot. That's
so circle fun. Like 90 and 104 would be super interesting picks, or 104 and 138, maybe something like that.
Exactly. So, like, I think you can package something with the day 2 stuff that the Lions have. Maybe, the Cardinals would be okay with getting rid of 90 and 104, and the Lions get rid of 63 and 29 for 27, 90, 104, something like that, or 104 and 138. Again, I don't know if that's going to be the case, but the team beyond that is the Miami Dolphins, because they don't have any capital. Like, I don't think the Dolphins are that good, first and foremost. Like, they've lost a lot. They've lost Christian Wilkins. They've lost their starting guard. Their quarterback is questionable because of his health concerns. So, like, this is a team with 2 picks in the top 60, and then they're, again, similar to the Lions, big gap. So I wonder if there's a way that we can move up to 21. And the only reason why I say it is because of what's on the board. Brian Thomas Jr. is there. Could he be gone? Possibly. The team you always hear is right here at 15.
Yeah.
Jackson Powers Johnson, though, is right there. Would they trade up for him? Possibly. Graham Barton, would they trade up for him? Would they trade up? Do you think they'd trade up for A.D. Mitchell?
Maybe. He strikes me as too JMO-like. Okay. Maybe that's completely unfair to A.D. Mitchell. Maybe it is, because he was productive-ish at Georgia. It's not like he's a one-year wonder kind of like, I would not see them trading up for a player like Brian Thomas, I guess is what I would say, but I'm not sure A.D. Mitchell is that. I know A.D. Mitchell fits the linear fast guy mold that Brad Holmes seems to like. He does. Yeah. I just think that he is he more speed guy over route runner with speed guy? I don't know. I think he's more speed at the position, right? Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean he's non-functional. It just means, he has to develop a little bit. But there's that huge window as to who is wide receiver 4 in this class.
Yeah.
And, I think traditionally it's going to be Brian Thomas or either of the Texas guys, depending on, where what team is picking. But yeah. I think with Miami, it's more trying to jump in front of a few other teams for a player like Jackson Powers Johnson, maybe trying to get in front of Philly for him, right? Because, Kelsey just retired and they could really use a center.
Yep.
Dallas needs some interior O-line help. Miami certainly does. So that would be, to me, that's kind of the play, is not necessarily jumping up for receiver or anything like that. In this regard, it'd be jumping up for that one specific player. Would the Lions do that? I don't know. And I could be totally wrong too. Maybe they covet, somebody else. I don't know.
Right. And in this scenario though, too, like, I don't know if Miami would necessarily trade out of this spot. Maybe, again, I don't know if the Vikings are going to keep this pick 23. If they move up for JJ or whatever quarterback, I would have to assume this pick is going to go to the Chargers or the Cardinals, which, by the way, if the Cardinals got pick 11 and 23, if they had 4 picks in the top 35, that's scary. That's just ridiculous.
Yes. That's a team that you could pick on a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even offering something in the future too.
Right. But with the Dolphins, I just don't know if they would trade out of this spot with what's on the board. They need help at defensive tackle. Byron Murphy, Johnny Newton are there. They get Powers Johnson or Graham Barton. Like, I don't know if this would actually happen realistically. So yeah. You want me to try to make the trade, or do you want me to resume it and maybe we try to trade with the Cardinals? Do you want to try to do that one deal that we talked about.
Yeah, let's try. Because I'm not sure Miami wants to bail in this scenario, with the exception of they do need more picks.
Right.
But, the Lions are not necessarily the best team to offer them more picks.
Right.
However, the Lions window is right now. And drafting a player who will help them right now, even if that means giving up something, is an interesting thought. It is. And I'm glad you paused it where you did, because it gives us a chance to kind of collect our thoughts on, is there a scenario, the reasonable scenario that, yes, is there a scenario where the Lions could jump up without giving up a ton of stuff in the future? I don't know. And I don't know if they would, because to me, pick 61 is pretty valuable in this scenario. Are we offering 20? Well, do your work.
How about that? 29 and 73 for 27 and 90?
Yeah. You could try it. I don't know if they would do it. Like, I bet, if you're,
man, I don't think that's a good trade.
Yeah, I would almost want to wait to see who's there at that spot.
Oh, the Chiefs moved up. Look at that. As we talk about it.
Yep. Yeah. That's not a surprise. All right, so both defensive tackles are there. The guard center combo is there. My assumption is Darius Robinson is still there. I mean, you could try if you want to try to jump up. Who would you want? The guard center combo?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I would almost just rather stay. I don't know. I mean, I just don't realistically see Jackson Powers Johnson being there.
The only way he's there is if the injury concerns, which seem to be something that's talked about, are a little more real than we know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the Lions, are you drafting a somewhat problematic injuries profile center guard to fill a future need? If he's clean medically, he's a home run.
Yeah.
But, the fallback plan is if it's not the Oregon center guard, who would it be at this point?
I mean, to me, the hope is that Johnny Newton just falls right in their lap at 29. And I think that's pretty realistic at this point.
Yeah.
Just doing the simulator, but even in just the real life part of it, right? Like,
yeah,
I think he makes a lot of sense. I will say this: Christian Haynes being here at 26 is yes, there's a chance there.
And Barton going where Barton went too. Yeah.
Yep.
And I like the idea, as much as we explored trying to come up. I know we did this last week. The idea of trading out is just as intriguing, and it's just as realistic as them trading up.
Right.
I would say let it roll, and let's just see who's there.
And Johnny Newton goes. Yes, yep. Chop Robinson went. Awesome.
Okay, so whoa. What was that other one?
Every pick possible. That is not realistic at all.
So you would be foregoing anything in the first 60 picks by doing this.
Yep.
Man, that fills the big hole that you would have. And I love the idea of getting a first and a second, but that is not going to happen.
No.
That is, as much as I would say, yes, bring that on, because we're gonna find gems starting with pick 61. That kind of trade I don't think would ever exist in the real world.
Yeah, and I don't think this one would either. I mean,
correct. Yeah, I agree.
The Browns don't have a first this year. They're not going to give up more capital next year when who knows what that team's going to look like. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have Byron Murphy and Jackson Powers Johnson staring us in the face. Do we think either one of those guys are realistically there?
I could see Jackson Powers Johnson being there for the reason we mentioned. Maybe there's some injury issue, but I love his game.
Yeah.
He could be there. He could certainly be there. I mean, we did see a bunch of tackles go. We saw Barton go. We saw Guyton go. I'm sorry, not Guyton, Christian Haynes. I don't know how many tackles our offensive linemen went. My assumption is it's already 7. So,
yeah, I mean, the run is it's starting to go.
Yeah, and we've talked, very openly about this being a significant need. Is there a corner worth taking?
I mean, they have Cooper DeJean.
Do they have him listed as a safety now?
They have him listed.
I love it.
I think he fits here, to be honest.
Yeah,
but I just don't know if he's going to.
He does too.
Yeah,
it's just does he fit perfectly with what they do? Is he a safety? Are you adding a safety in round one to a room that's pretty full?
Right.
Not seriously full, but a room that has, some players in it.
Right.
To me, it's between one of those two guys, unless we want to get involved in the wide receiver conversation.
I mean, I just don't see, like you said, I don't see them going after AD Mitchell, and I just don't see him being there. I really don't.
If you don't think he's going to be there, then we shouldn't consider him.
Yeah,
I might take Jackson Powers Johnson here and just make it safe.
Yep, I'm with you. I'd say we let that one roll. Cooper DeJean to Baltimore. What a pick that would be.
Yeah,
I'm happy. I'm happy to see Max Melton go in the top 40. I like seeing that.
Added Mitchell to Houston. Interesting. With Nico Collins and Tank Dell.
Yeah. Okay. Kamari Lassiter to Eagles. That's a great fit. Wow, Kalen Carson at pick 57, eh?
Okay, so this is your opportunity to fill holes.
I think this is actually a really good trade. I know it's a big drop, but I think it's a great trade.
Let's just do it as an exercise.
I agree. I will see
a future third.
Byron Murphy on the board, no shot. There's no shot unless something Laramie Tunzel happens to him. I don't see that happening.
Well,
crazier things have happened, but I'm going to
let's fill holes.
Yep. Oh, and they moved up for Byron Murphy. Perfect.
Yep. Ricky Pearsall went. He was going to be one of those.
Do you think he fits?
I do.
Here?
I do. Yeah. I think he's an outside player who can fit inside. So I don't think we need to be doing.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's up to you. At this point, let's start taking dudes. Do you want to look at the corner position and see what's available there?
Yeah, buddy.
So we've done the Abrams drain thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
Let's do something different this time. But you can see here how we now have a bunch of picks, and in between, like, what was it, 73 to 164 before?
Yep.
Now we have 73, 86, 123, and 164. And if we trust Brad Holmes, and we do, this is where he's going to crush it.
Yep.
So,
realistic as hell.
Yeah. Now, I'm
sorry.
No, you're good. What's available at receiver? Because it is something I think that it's a need. I don't think Roman Wilson's available at this point. Do you?
I would be a little surprised at 70, if 61, possibly 73. I just don't see that.
I don't either. But I think the corners that we like would be.
Yep.
I don't know that any Rosengarten's a good player.
Yeah, but he's another one. I don't know if he's going to be there either. I mean, Mel Kiper's hyping him up in the first round.
Yeah, I don't, and he's so athletic. I think if we go to the defensive side of the ball, we just, you bolstered the interior O-line. It's something we haven't done in other exercises, drafts kind of stuff. I don't know what you think of Chris Jenkins. He's interesting to me.
I like him. I'm a big fan. He's a top 60 player for me for sure.
And what's at the edge here? Anything worth?
There's such a drop off. It's
yeah. I mean, I would almost look at the corner position and think that makes sense. And I know we've done the Abrams trade. I don't think Mike Sainra still is. I don't know what your thoughts are on him, but I don't think he's available at this point in the draft.
Me neither. I do think Renardo Green is there, though.
Maybe that's the play. Let's take Renardo Green.
Okay. I would say Andrew Phillips, but he misses far too many tackles for me to be comfortable in the fact that he could be more of a slot guy, and they've already kind of got that with Branch and Amik Robertson. So,
and I think he's more of a zone kind of a fit than he is as a man.
Yep.
Player. Now, I think either of the Florida State guys work.
Yep. I will say, talking with Jim Nagy, he has said Kyrie Jackson is going to go much sooner than you're seeing. So you think of Brad Holmes, West Coast, Oregon, that could be a thing. Yeah. But for the sake of the exercise and our mentions, I'm just going to go ahead and do Renardo Green because I don't know if people would be very thrilled with the other way around. So
it's just a thought exercise. That's all. All right. Here's where we're going to start to make up some ground.
Yep. So far, Jackson Powers Johnson, Renardo Green, pick 86. Wow, Chris Jenkins is still there. I don't think that is a thing though. At that stage, I think Dwayne Carter's interesting if they went defensive tackle.
Yep.
I don't know if that's
it's so. I don't want to say bad because it's a little disrespectful, but the interior D-line, Jermaine Burton here makes sense.
He does. And my thing with him, though, is some of the character stuff that pops up about him. Does that affect the Lions' thought process on him at all? And the fact that looking at what's on the board, we have pick 123 after this. Jalen McMillan staring them in the face, who, oddly enough, I'm fairly confident I compared him to Josh Reynolds. Javon Baker.
Brandon Rice is right there and going to be in that range and in the 123 range. And I think we want to kind of focus on taking him. Luke McCaffrey's interesting.
I am with you, dude. I really think he might be somebody the Lions like as well.
Yeah. He's interesting. So at this point, we've taken a interior O-line. We've taken a corner. What do we think is, obviously you need an edge. You need corners. You need receivers. You could potentially be looking at another offensive lineman here if you wanted to.
Yeah, Blake Fisher's there, who's kind of a developmental right tackle guard type of guy.
And they 100% need a developmental tackle. 100% do.
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, again, I don't know. Do they wait till, a little bit later and they look at Greenfield from South Dakota State, Javon Foster from Missouri? He's a Detroit kid. I don't know. I mean, I was in my head, I was thinking defensive tackle just for the sake of defense, but now you got my head spinning on offensive tackle, and I think I like that a little bit more.
Do you think Fisher here fits the developmental mold as a realistic player who would be there, who they might take?
I mean, I would think so. I mean, I'm fairly confident at the Notre Dame Pro Day. I
still like Jenkins, and I think it's plausible. We're at the end of round 3. I don't know.
You think Chris Jenkins would be here?
I think it's right on I think it's bordering a little no, but
it's so tough.
Yeah. Let's make a pick. You pick. If you think developmental tackle works, we will be able to go. I think our next pick's going to be receiver. So that's why I was just thinking maybe, we go defense and try to help the lines kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, could I see the tackle? Yes. I could also, I just don't know. Would they spend 2 of their top 3 picks on offensive linemen? I just don't know.
Want to take Jenkins?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if he'd be there. I think
so we're both going to say it. I don't know that it's totally realistic to think he's going to be there. You don't either. But that's what
crazier things have happened. This is the draft. There goes Fisher.
Yep.
I was not going to take Rukaroro or however you say his name. I'm not a huge fan. I thought I was going to like him, and
it's funny. It's funny because I've watched a bunch of players recently, and I thought I was really going to like that guy.
Yeah,
I didn't like that guy at all.
Yeah,
Gabe Hall comes to mind. No offense, Gabe, but I thought I was going to like him as a player, but man, no,
hot and cold, very hot and cold,
very cold. Take your boy.
I might have to go with Jamari Thrash. From a route running perspective, I mean, I can take, if you want me to take Brendan Rice, I'll do that, and we can try at 168 to get your guy. My thing with Jamari Thrash is I'm probably much higher on him than the consensus. He's an experienced route runner. I think he's one of the better route runners in the class. He's not overly fast and explosive, but from route pacing and timing, when I think of Detroit and Jared Goff, it's all about timing.
Yes.
Jamari Thrash is almost...
If you think he's the guy, take him, because it is all about trustworthy, being where you're supposed to be at the right time.
Yep. And again, Brendan Rice could be there, and he could be the guy. And I've talked about him, but I did not think Jamari Thrash was going to be there, so I had to. And
this is not, this isn't the most glamorous of drafts, but when we get towards the end, we're going to talk about positions that we filled and why it could be, again, it's just an exercise into this is what you do if you want to trade down and accumulate picks in the big open window that you have.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Devonshire is there. Brownlee is there. I don't think your boy is there.
My guess is he's really ranked low. Unless, is it possible he went?
I think he went. I'm in the 300s. There's no way he's in the 300. Yep, 155.
And that's about, that's about right.
I probably should have paused it. I should have probably looked at moving up to get him, which is possible. 164 and 201.
Yeah. Sure, they could have done that. We're good. What do we think? So we have a receiver, we have a D tackle, we have a corner, and a center guard.
Is this your developmental tackle spot right here?
Yeah, could be. It's just who is it?
Right. I could see them liking Ladarius Henderson. Kind of got guard tackle flexibility, 35-inch arms.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Garrett Greenfield. I don't know if he ever popped when you were watching McCormick.
He did, and I thought whoever's coaching the O-line out there at South Dakota State's doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah,
those dudes are athletic, they're big, and they're all that stuff. I wonder. Okay, so if we think about the tight end position, Brock Wright just signed a contract with the 49ers. The Lions have a day or two to match it. Eric All's been injured, and I know he had the ACL stuff. He is super athletic.
Yep,
but he's almost. I think he's too. It's never a bad thing to be redundant with a player like Sam Laporta, but I'm thinking more of the 12 personnel guy who's going to help you as a blocker immediately. I'm thinking about AJ Barner here, where I think he can give you enough, as a pass catcher, as a secondary third guy, but a really good blocker who's going to get on the field right away because of his ability to block, and then surprise with some athleticism and some ability to, move the chains kind of stuff. But that only makes sense if they're not going to redo they're not going to re-up with Brock Wright. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but
no, I'm with you. This brings up the question. I was going to bring this up, but it is being discussed of it was in my mentions today from somebody that follows along. He said, "Do you think the Lions would move up for Brock Bowers?" And I go, "I don't think so." But if he does drop it all, and if Brock Wright is gone, do they move up for a tight end in the first round? I doubt it because they have Sam Laporta. I think
That's true, but they have embraced the idea of a positionless player before.
Yep.
And Brock Bowers is not, to me, he's not necessarily a tight end.
Yeah.
He's more of a big slot receiver who's elite at doing that kind of stuff. Wow, man. That would be crazy. But last year, if we were doing this and we said Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be a Lion, people would have told us we were nuts.
Right.
So it's interesting to talk about for sure. I think for what we're doing right now, the addition of Barner makes sense if we think that they're not going to give Brock Wright all that money, and competitiveness. He can play. He blocks really well. All that stuff. I think it makes sense. But are we looking to develop something else? Are we looking to? I mean, I still think they need more help at corner, potentially safety. My guess is there's a bunch of veteran safeties who are not going to sign anywhere until after the draft.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's been hinted to me a little bit is the Lions are not necessarily going to go the draft route, but, veteran player after the draft kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I could see them I could see them reacquiring Jerry Jacobs, to be completely honest, at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Just talking safety, I think Evan Williams is very interesting in this spot. I like the thought, though, of the tight end. I'm with you. I mean, according to the rankings, Barner's a little bit of a reach here, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think he kind of fits. So I'm fine.
Brendan Armstrong from Washington State, the edge player, is he there?
He is there, and I think he's a fit. I think he is exactly the type of player they're looking for on day 3. When you look at they have a prototype that they're looking for. It's very similar to the Bills, 6'5", 260, 265 pounds, can play the run, can get after the quarterback a little bit. Jackson can do that. So I think that that's a fit.
That's the player.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's great. If we can somehow land Barner at 201 or even Tip Riemann out of Illinois at 201. Yeah. I mean,
I think Barner might be there.
Yeah. Christian Boyd, 5th round. That seems to be kind of the likely landing spot for him. Just talking around. Like it doesn't seem like he's going to be as high as thought of. So
Barner went to the Seahawks.
Of course he did. Your favorite players go to the Seahawks.
Bastards.
And mine go to the Packers.
Okay. What are we going to do here? There's your Riemann.
Yeah. I mean, I just know him from a blocking perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Tanner McLachlan, but I've heard good things. I could see that being a play.
What's available at receiver? Yeah. Let's find, is there a corner or safety that stands out to you?
Well, corner, just talking with him at the Senior Bowl, Carlton Johnson from Fresno State, very small, wiry kind of player, but seems to be very knowledgeable, and seems to be like a pretty solid, just kid.
Yeah.
Thomas Harper's very intriguing. Mark Perry from TCU is the player that if Risden was here, he would be pounding the table right now.
What about linebacker, like coverage linebacker development? Because they've drafted a linebacker every year.
Well, I'm biased. I think that this guy, Darius Muasu from UCLA, used to play at Hawaii. Fun as I mean, he is fun, man. He hits. He's got great range. He can cover, hook curl the flats. He should be okay there.
And we're talking at this point to draft developmental special teams, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
If you think he fits there, I mean, it's a position we haven't really looked at.
Yeah, I'm all about it. I've heard a lot of good things about McGee out of Temple, just haven't watched him. And I'm not going to dare to say this Washington kid's name, but I watched him during the season. I haven't circled back, but I would be all about this guy. I know it's a bit of a read, but
it's fine. We're good. Again, you're developing the back end of your roster, the bottom 10 spots.
Yep. I say this last
Derek Barnes is injured. Did he have surgery? Do we even know?
I haven't heard nothing. I don't think he did. So
that injury looked awful.
Yep. I don't think it was as bad as first thought of, or the first bit of it.
Let's hope, because it's he was coming on. He looked good.
Yep.
I mean, and not that they don't have. I mean, they're okay with Anzalone and Campbell and Rodriguez and stuff, but you still need, if Rodriguez is going to take a little more starting minutes, you need special teams. That's what we just did with the coverage kind of lateral linebacker we just took.
Yeah.
To me, this is just, what's the best developmental player that you can take? Or is there a kicker? Right? Like, they need a kicker.
Cam Little out of Arkansas. He can kick.
I don't know. That's
I don't know. I don't know enough. I don't see them taking a running back, even though I'd be very intrigued with either Vidal or Edwards, for the simple fact that both of them can pick up blitzes and block very well. Honestly, I'm a little intrigued with Jack Westover here out of Washington. He had a combine visit or combine invite, and we were looking at tight end. I mean, I don't know enough about the other guys, but Westover, when you watch Penix, like, this guy kind of was that safety valve. He would block in line at times. They have James Mitchell. They took him in the 7th round a few years ago. So maybe this is one of those scenarios,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, losing Wright isn't like a total killer. It's just you need to replace the developmental sort of roster spot kind of thing. Maybe they choose not to do it in this draft. I don't know.
Maybe they take a flyer on a veteran.
Yeah. And then there is a what's his name? Super athletic center. Dylan McCarthy, something like that.
Dylan McMahon. Dylan McMahon.
Crazy athlete. A touch undersized.
Yep.
But I could see them being in on that,
Yeah.
But with the pick in round 1, you sort of mitigate some of that stuff.
Yeah, he's not even there though.
Matt Lee's pretty athletic too. The Miami center, and he's same thing. He's a touch undersized, but I think at this point, take a corner, take a safety, take somebody who can help you on special teams, kind of thing.
Well, I wonder if my guy. Here's another corner I really like, Dwight McGlothern.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
He closes really well. It's interesting that his ranking is 337 because, like, I swear 2 months ago, I've done enough of these. I swear he was at like 205.
Yeah.
Same thing with Kamal Hayden. I don't know why he's so low here. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a guy that you feel.
No, I mean, I could take. We would want a development. A Chase Lucas type, right? So I mean, that made me a little more comfortable with the Elijah, the Elijah Jones thing. Is that he's 24. Chase Lucas was like 25 when they drafted him,
right?
And it was simply for special teams, realistically only.
Yeah.
I think any of these safeties, linebackers, corners that can move, good. It's just
if that's the case, I'm going to take Jalen Simpson because I don't know if he'll necessarily be here at this spot, but a little bit undersized, can cover the slot. He flies upfield, man. He comes downhill with a hurry.
Sold.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So that's the draft. Jackson Powers, I mean, it's going to sim it, but that's it.
Yeah. And so compare this to the one we did a week ago. This is just a completely different thought process.
Yep.
And does a player like Jamari Thrash, does he emerge as a value for what we did, which was to fill the hole? Is Brennan Jackson a player that helped? I mean, that's an original pick, but Chris Jenkins to me is really good football player, NFL bloodlines. Definitely a player that will help you if Onwuzurike doesn't emerge.
Yep.
And you're sort of kind of getting into the territory where it needs to, produce results or get off the pot kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This isn't what I would consider to be a super sexy draft, but Renardo Green's a really good player. Jackson Powers Johnson's a really good player. And then after that, it's like these are needs that you need to fill.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% agree, because you're going to get the depth of Jenkins and Thrash to both those positions. The same thing with Jackson. And at some point down the road in their first season, we're going to see those guys. It might be Thanksgiving, it might be week 16, who knows? But those guys are going to have to step up and play. I mean, guys are going to get banged up, and you need those guys to step in. And I think you bring those in, and I think you can safely say that they're going to probably produce at some point. Maybe not the highest level right away, but you're going to get some value there. So,
yeah. And then, for where the Lions are as a roster, it's different because they're in such better position than they have been in a very long time.
Yeah.
That the draft now, outside of like, say, round 1 or, round 2 kind of stuff, you're really trying to balance developing the bottom bit of your roster, making it more competitive.
Yeah.
More depth, that kind of stuff. And I think this kind of thing does that.
Right. No, I think it's great. Maybe it's a little bit defensive heavy, which maybe they don't do necessarily. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very realistic draft that I'm happy with it. We got an extra third. I mean, that's a positive. We got some depth guys here late in the draft. So I like it. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. We're going to wrap this thing up. You guys let us know below in the comments of what you think of Mock Draft 2.0. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Detroit Lions podcast on YouTube. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft, at Bischoff_Scott. Drop us a follow and maybe send us your mock drafts. Maybe we'll grade you on it or tell you what we like, what we didn't like. Same thing that you're going to do to us in the comments. Yeah. So,
fun.
Yeah. Anything else you got to add to this?
No, we're good. We're good.
Cool,
just
man.
Go watch the interior O-line and the offensive tackle ones. Those are longer, but it's pretty in depth in terms of like all of the tackles, all the interior O-line guys. Those are those were fun to do.
Yeah,
go watch those.
Yeah,
compare and contrast this mock draft to the first one we did. I'm sure we're going to do another one before the draft rolls around. Let us know where we screwed up and how we can fix it.
Yep,
going forward.
Well, you got anything else to add? We're good.
We're good.
All right. Well, like I said, you guys follow us, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. But he's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. This has been another edition of Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast.